at the Antigua Forum 2018, and joining me is June Arunga. She's the CEO of Usafi Comfort, a wastewater management firm. June, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Before we talk about Usafi Comfort, which is the project that you brought to the forum, I want to know, you have been a leader in a lot of projects that tend to work for human rights and liberty, and the word advocate just really stands out and seems to describe you well. And what I want to know is what personally drives you to break the bonds of poverty in your country?
Poverty is unpleasant, and I find it tragic that people would be born and die without maximizing their potential. So I think that's an insight I had from a young age, and I would say that's really it.
And the project then of Usafi Comfort, how was this idea born?
Well, I had had 2 kids and been a stay-at-home mom for about 3 years, and it was time to get back to work. So I was thinking about a new business that I would start, and my husband bought me 0 to 1, a book by Peter Thiel, and in the book Peter describes a kind of a business opportunity that has much higher chances of succeeding than others. He calls it a 0 to 1 opportunity. The kind of opportunity, he says, is created when you can spot a very painful problem that nobody seems to want to solve. That if you can solve such a problem, then you can make a great business out of it. So I started thinking about what kind of problem would that be, and thinking about it in the abstract was a bit difficult. But when I asked myself, what is it that irks me so much and nobody seems to be doing something about it? It was a lack of clean toilets, ubiquitous clean toilets in Kenya. So if you're in a well-to-do neighborhood, you'll always find clean toilets, but once you leave the precincts of such areas, then it's usually pit latrines or toilets that don't have adequate water. Or, you just never know if you're going to find a place to have a comfortable restroom experience. And so I started wondering, why is it that we have cutting-edge technology in Kenya for so many things, cell phones, for example, and yet in this one area, we're still in the Middle Ages. Mm-hmm. And that's how Usafi was born. So I started working on that question, researching what is the rational reason that would make that the case, and we ended up where we are today.
Right. So could you just expand on what is Usafi Comfort? What's the service that it provides, and the problem and the solution that it's bringing?
Okay, so Usafi Comfort's great insight is that, like I said, there's a rational reason why people use pit latrines and so on. Number one, the centralized wastewater treatment plants are very few. Mm-hmm. So they serve less than 10% of the population. Sewage infrastructure is very expensive, and most developing countries really can't afford to expand their sewer systems. So you have cities that are growing very fast because of population growth, because of rural to urban migration, which in all growing countries, this is a very strong trend that is not about to subside. And so people move into the cities, and the cities are expanding. Construction is growing steadily at over 10% year on year, but the sewer system is not growing at all. Mm. So what you end up with is rural areas that have no sewer systems and are also not connected to piped water. So you don't have a constant supply of toilet flushing water. So it only makes sense that you should go outside and separate, for hygiene purposes, separate human waste from people's dwellings, because you don't have the water to conduct it away. In the cities, what happens is that initially people were using septic tanks when the cities were less densely populated. And now the density is increasing such that single family homes are disappearing. Now you have apartment buildings. So in a small space, you have 100 families living. So there's no room to have all that wastewater stored underground. So septic tanks don't work anymore. So what ends up happening, because there's no sewer line, is this sewer ends up in the stormwater drains. And you find this across the world in developing countries. So what we do is we install wastewater treatment plants in these buildings in the cities so that the wastewater goes into our plant and is converted into clean water, so that even if it's released in the stormwater drain, it's not a health hazard, and it raises the sanitation standards.
Okay, so you have this project and you realize that there's some challenges or obstacles that you're going to have to overcome. How did you decide the Antigua Forum is the place for me to figure some stuff out?
Actually, a very good friend of ours, a family friend, is the one who called me. He was visiting us from America, and we were talking about the business, and I was describing to him some of the challenges that we're facing as a young business, because we would like to scale. Our mission is to get these plants across the country and go into other countries, make them affordable, make them a standard. So make them the dominant alternative to centralized sewer systems. So basically create a paradigm shift from people waiting for the day sewer systems will come to realizing that there's a solution here and now. So it's an ambitious vision, and between where we are and where we're going, there's a lot that we need to figure out. Quite a bit of it is in place, but the journey requires intensive capital, requires some very strong partnerships and committed partnerships that are actually multinational. So as we were discussing this, he was just listening. Then he went back to America, and I can't remember how long it was. He called and said, "Oh, there's a friend of mine who's been to this forum called the Antigua Forum, and I was just telling him about you, and he's nominated you to go. Here, have a look." So he sent a link about the Antigua Forum. So when I looked at it, it was really, really a pleasant surprise, because to find the kind of expertise that the Antigua Forum brings together, if as a business person I had to pay for that expertise, it would be quite expensive.
Right.
To also find mentors that are committed and to nurture them, if you want to go that way to seek advice, is also difficult. The biggest and most pleasant surprise for me was that I discovered Antigua Forum was at UFM, an organization I'd heard about a lot within the libertarian networks. And then I was going through the pictures and I saw people I know. And I was just like, oh, wow, like it was just a triple win. So I was like, these are my friends. These are people I know. These are people who we share a life philosophy, and they're interested in helping me. Yay to me. So yeah, it was a very easy decision. Yeah.
And once you started collaborating and everything, what was the kind of end result or the takeaway? Now that you've already had the experience here, what do you take from the experience, or what were the things that you were able to kind of pinpoint as solutions to what you brought?
Well, one, I have, this is subject to confirmation, of course, but I think I have found a new CFO who's a seasoned CFO. We currently need to structure some kind of not just sophisticated, but also maybe novel, experimental type of financial instruments to help fund what we're doing, and I don't know where I would have found not just the idea to experiment with these financial instruments, but also someone willing to help structure these for a startup. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal, because it's a breakthrough in terms of finding the kind of financing we need. So that expertise, I think, will go a long way in helping us be able to set the company on a sustainable course financially. And yeah, I would say that's really the big one.
The main thing.
That's the main thing in terms of a solution for ourselves. In terms of a lesson that I've learned or an insight I've had as an individual, it's just struck me even more than before that human beings are here on this planet to help each other, and that's a big deal. That it can change the world in small and big ways when people are generous to each other, when people are thoughtful and attentive to each other's journeys and dreams, and it's a beautiful thing. And so I'm hoping that one day I can, not even one day, because we all have something we can give to somebody else who's working on their dream or their ambition. So I think I'm inspired to do the same for other people.
Thank you so much, Drew, and I think you have an inspiring way of working and the vision that you have, and I wish you the best on your project. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.